Welcome to the English Pod community. I am Blake, and today we explore why English listening is more important than ever. Are you ready to challenge yourself? Have you ever found that understanding fast, natural English speech seems almost impossible? Do you wonder how listening carefully can improve not only your listening, but also your writing skills? In this episode, we will dive into real-life stories that show how careful listening can transform your ability to write clearly and speak confidently. We upload new videos every day to help you improve your English, so if you are new here, welcome and thank you for joining us. Let me share a recent experience that changed my perspective. I was at a business conference with a group of international colleagues. During one presentation, a speaker named Michael explained complex ideas in a natural, flowing way. I was struck by how his tone and pace helped me understand even the technical details. I noticed that by listening intently, I began to form clearer thoughts. Later, when I wrote an email summarizing the presentation, my sentences flowed smoothly and were much more precise. That moment taught me that advanced listening skills have a direct impact on how we write and communicate our ideas. Now think about your own experiences. Have you ever struggled to follow a conversation because the speaker talked too quickly or used expressions you were not familiar with? Picture yourself in a situation where someone describes a significant event in their life, such as a surprising turn during a family celebration or a challenging moment at work. For instance, a friend named Jessica once shared how she overcame a major obstacle in her career by simply listening to her own inner thoughts before responding to a stressful situation. Her calm, deliberate approach not only resolved the problem, but also inspired me to adopt a more thoughtful way of communicating. Imagine you are in a lively discussion with a colleague, Daniel, about a new project at work. Daniel explains his ideas with energy, emphasizing key points by varying his tone. Instead of focusing solely on the words, you listen to the emotion and the pauses between his sentences. You then capture those insights when you later draft a report, making your writing more vivid and engaging. This is the power of advanced listening. It equips you with the ability to not only absorb information, but also to express it with clarity. Advanced listening also means being attentive to subtle cues in conversations. I recall a time when I attended a community event and listened to a story from a local teacher named Sarah. She talked about her students' progress and the challenges they faced with determination and care. The way she described her daily interactions, the careful choice of words, and the pauses that emphasized her passion all made a lasting impact on me. When I later wrote about the event, I could replicate that same passion and clarity in my writing. This experience reinforced that active, careful listening is essential for both effective speaking and writing. Ask yourself, how often do you actively listen during conversations? Do you allow yourself to absorb the nuances of tone and rhythm? Every time you engage with a real-life story, you build a stronger connection with the language. Advanced listening allows you to catch idioms, expressions, and emotional undertones that are lost when you only focus on the literal words. By tuning into these subtleties, you enrich your vocabulary and gain insights that make your own speech and writing more natural and persuasive. Consider another example from my life. I once had the opportunity to listen to a seasoned journalist named Robert during an interview session. His ability to dissect complex topics and then explain them with precision was remarkable. I listened carefully to how he structured his sentences and emphasized important points. Later, when I attempted to write a similar piece, I found that his method of structuring ideas had influenced my style. I started using clear, concise sentences and effective transitions between ideas. This direct link between listening to advanced speakers and improving my writing demonstrates why English listening is crucial for advanced learners. Now, I invite you to reflect on your personal journey. Have you noticed that when you listen carefully, your own communication becomes more thoughtful? think about a time when you were fully present in a conversation and how that made you feel more connected and confident. Advanced listening is not just about understanding words. It is about grasping the emotions, the context, and the subtle messages behind them. These skills make your interactions richer and your writing more compelling. In our busy world, where information comes at us quickly and in many different forms, advanced listening is more important than ever. Whether you are watching a news report, participating in a live discussion, or enjoying a conversation with friends, the ability to listen attentively can set you apart. It enables you to capture the essence of what is being said and to respond with insight and clarity. This episode shows you that by improving your listening skills, you naturally enhance your ability to write clearly, speak confidently, and connect with others on a deeper level. I encourage you to try practicing these techniques in your daily life. Listen carefully to the rhythm and intonation of speakers. Reflect on the stories you hear, and then write about them in your own words. Notice how your writing improves as you become more attuned to the way English is spoken in real-life situations. Remember, every conversation, every story, and every listening exercise contributes to your overall fluency and confidence in English. Continue to challenge yourself by seeking out diverse speakers and varying your listening sources. Whether it's a podcast featuring industry experts, a heartfelt story shared by a friend, or a dynamic panel discussion, each experience offers valuable lessons in language use. By embracing the art of advanced listening, you not only sharpen your ear, but also empower yourself to express ideas with precision and passion. When you expose yourself to different voices and speaking styles, you begin to notice the subtle differences in pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. For example, imagine listening to a podcast where a renowned scientist explains breakthrough research. His speech is deliberate, with clear enunciation and a measured pace that makes complex concepts easier to understand. Contrast that with a roundtable discussion where several experts interact spontaneously, using informal language, interjections, and varied accents. These different scenarios teach you how English can be both structured and fluid. They show you that language is not static, but a living, evolving means of communication. By practicing with a range of speakers, you gain the ability to adjust your understanding and response in any situation. Consider the impact of listening to a heartfelt story shared by someone close to you. Picture a friend describing a personal experience, such as overcoming a challenge at work or a meaningful moment during a family reunion. In this setting, the speaker might use emotional cues, pauses, and changes in tone that reveal more than just the literal meaning of the words. As you listen, you start to pick up on these cues and learn how emotion shapes communication. This helps you become more empathetic and improves your ability to express feelings in your own speech and writing. The more you engage with such real-life narratives, the better you become at capturing the essence of what is being said, allowing you to respond in a more thoughtful and nuanced way. Another way to enhance your listening skills is to focus on the structure of conversations. Notice how a skilled speaker organizes their thoughts, transitions between ideas, and uses examples to illustrate a point. For instance, during a live interview, you might hear the interviewer ask open-ended questions that lead to detailed responses. Listen carefully to how the guest organizes their response. They may start with a brief overview, follow up with a personal anecdote, and then conclude with a summary of the main idea. This structure not only makes the conversation engaging, but also models how you can structure your own speech and writing. Over time, you learn to replicate these patterns, which in turn makes your communication clearer and more persuasive. It is also beneficial to challenge yourself by listening to content that pushes your comfort zone. When you listen to speakers with accents or dialects that differ from what you are used to, you train your brain to adapt to various speech patterns. For example, if you are accustomed to American English, try listening to speakers from Australia or the United Kingdom. Their pronunciation, vocabulary, and even the pace of speech might be different, but each variation enriches your understanding of the language. This practice not only enhances your listening comprehension, but also prepares you for real-world situations where you might interact with people from diverse backgrounds. In addition to passive listening, active engagement with the content is crucial. After listening to a podcast or an interview, take a moment to reflect on what you heard. Summarize the main points in your own words, either by speaking aloud or writing them down. This simple exercise reinforces your understanding and helps transfer new vocabulary and expressions into your active memory. For instance, if you listened to a discussion on environmental sustainability, try to summarize the key arguments and then express your own thoughts on the subject. This active engagement transforms listening from a passive activity into an interactive learning experience. Another effective technique is to combine listening with speaking exercises. After you have listened to a story or a conversation, try to retell the story in your own words. Choose a story that resonated with you, perhaps a tale of a personal triumph or an unexpected challenge, and attempt to narrate it as clearly and engagingly as possible. Focus on using the expressions and phrases you picked up from the original speaker and pay attention to your own tone and pace. This exercise not only reinforces your listening comprehension, but also builds your ability to convey ideas with clarity and emotion. As you practice, you will notice that your retelling becomes more fluid and natural, indicating that your advanced listening skills are enhancing your overall communication. Delving deeper into real-life scenarios, consider the situation of a business meeting where complex ideas are discussed. Imagine you are part of a strategic planning session where a senior manager outlines the company's vision for the next year. The manager's speech is layered with technical terms, persuasive language, and a confident tone that drives home the importance of each decision. By listening attentively to how the manager presents their ideas, you learn not only the vocabulary of the business world, but also the art of persuasion and clarity. Later, when you need to write a report or make a presentation, you can draw on these techniques to structure your message effectively. This example demonstrates that advanced listening is not confined to casual conversations. It is a skill that applies across all professional settings and enhances your ability to perform in them. Beyond professional settings, everyday interactions offer rich opportunities for advanced listening practice. Picture yourself in a social gathering where friends discuss travel experiences. One friend, Emily, describes her recent trip to a historic city with passion and detail. She explains how the local culture, architecture, and culinary delights left a lasting impression on her. As you listen, you pick up on the descriptive language and the subtle inflections in her voice that convey excitement and wonder. Later, when you want to share your own travel experiences, you can use the phrases and narrative style you absorbed from Emily's storytelling. This kind of practice enriches your conversational skills and enables you to connect with others on a deeper level through shared experiences. Another scenario might involve listening to expert advice in a seminar or a workshop. Imagine attending a lecture where a renowned author discusses the craft of storytelling. The speaker not only delivers valuable insights about narrative structure, but also demonstrates the importance of tone, pacing, and emotion in engaging an audience. As you listen to the speaker's articulate delivery and thoughtful pauses, you begin to understand how these elements work together to create a compelling story. This experience is invaluable because it provides you with a blueprint for effective communication, which you can then apply in your own writing and speaking. By learning from experts, you enhance your ability to communicate with clarity and impact. In addition to these experiences, interactive learning plays a significant role in refining your advanced listening skills. Participate in online forums or discussion groups where complex topics are debated. Engaging with others in these settings forces you to listen carefully to diverse viewpoints and respond thoughtfully. This interactive exchange sharpens your critical thinking and helps you to articulate your ideas more clearly. As you listen to different perspectives, you also learn to appreciate the nuances of language and the subtleties of tone that can alter meaning. This dynamic interaction fosters a deeper understanding of the language and builds your confidence in expressing complex ideas. Furthermore, you can enhance your skills by deliberately seeking feedback on your listening and speaking abilities. Whether through one-on-one conversations with mentors or by recording and reviewing your own speech, feedback is a powerful tool for improvement. Ask your peers or language instructors to point out areas where you can improve your pronunciation, intonation, or pacing. Take their advice seriously and incorporate their suggestions into your practice sessions. Over time, you will notice that the corrections help refine your delivery, making your speech clearer and more engaging. Constructive feedback not only accelerates your progress, but also reinforces the connection between listening carefully and speaking effectively. To further expand your advanced listening skills, explore a wide range of media. Read books aloud, while simultaneously listening to their audiobook versions. Compare your own pronunciation with that of the narrator. Notice the differences in emphasis and rhythm, and adjust your own reading accordingly. This exercise combines the benefits of reading, listening, and speaking into one cohesive practice session. It helps you internalize the natural flow of English and makes it easier to reproduce that flow in your own speech. As you become more comfortable with these techniques, you will find that your overall command of the language improves significantly. Engaging with technology can also provide new avenues for advanced listening practice. Use language learning. Apps that focus on advanced listening comprehension, where you can listen to challenging audio clips and answer questions based on them. These apps often include features that allow you to slow down the audio, repeat certain sections, and review transcripts. By leveraging these tools, you can tailor your learning experience to your specific needs, ensuring that you are constantly challenged without feeling overwhelmed. The flexibility offered by technology enables you to practice at your own pace and in a way that fits seamlessly into your daily routine. Moreover, consider joining webinars or virtual conferences that focus on topics you are passionate about. These events often feature expert speakers who discuss advanced subjects in depth. The interactive format allows you to not only listen to the content, but also to ask questions and participate in discussions. This active participation reinforces your listening skills and enhances your ability to think critically in English. As you engage with complex material in real time, you build a mental framework for processing advanced language and articulating your thoughts effectively. Another useful strategy is to integrate reflective practices into your learning routine. After each listening session, take a few minutes to write down what you learned and how it applies to your own experiences. Reflect on the emotions conveyed by the speakers, the structure of their arguments, and the vocabulary they used. This reflective process solidifies your understanding and makes the learning experience more personal and memorable. It also provides you with a written record that you can revisit later to gauge your progress and remind yourself of valuable lessons. Reflection transforms passive listening into an active dialogue with the content, deepening your connection with the language. Also, immerse yourself in conversations that challenge your current level. Engage in debates or discussions on topics that require you to articulate nuanced opinions. These high-level interactions demand that you listen carefully to different arguments and formulate coherent responses on the spot. The practice of thinking critically and speaking confidently in these situations will gradually enhance your fluency. Advanced discussions push you to expand your vocabulary, refine your grammar, and adopt a more sophisticated style of communication. Over time, you will notice that such challenges not only improve your language skills, but also boost your overall confidence in engaging with complex ideas. Finally, blend your advanced listening practice with creative exercises that stimulate both your imagination and your language skills. Try to write a short narrative inspired by a conversation you heard, or compose a dialogue between characters based on real-life experiences. This creative approach helps you internalize new language patterns and encourages you to experiment with different ways of expressing your thoughts. Creativity in language learning is a powerful tool. It allows you to break free from rigid structures and discover your unique voice in English. As you experiment with creative writing and storytelling, you will develop a more personal and authentic style of communication. By continuously challenging yourself with these diverse and engaging strategies, you build a solid foundation in advanced listening and speaking. Every podcast, every story, every discussion adds another layer to your understanding of the language. As you accumulate these experiences, you will find that you are not only able to follow complex conversations, but also to contribute meaningfully in any setting. Your improved listening skills will allow you to pick up on subtle details, making your responses more thoughtful and impactful. This comprehensive approach transforms advanced listening into a powerful tool for both personal and professional growth. Let's dive deeper into why advanced listening skills are crucial in today's world. The more you practice advanced listening, the more it becomes second nature. Just think about the situations in your daily life where effective communication can make all the difference. Imagine you're in a meeting at work discussing a new project with colleagues. Each person brings a different perspective, and understanding every detail is vital to ensure everyone is on the same page. Advanced listening allows you to follow these conversations closely, pick up on key points, and ask relevant questions. The ability to process complex ideas quickly gives you the edge to actively contribute to discussions and lead conversations with confidence. For example, think about a moment in your life where you were in a heated discussion. Perhaps you were debating an important topic with friends or family, and the conversation was full of diverse viewpoints. At that moment, you didn't just hear the words being said, you also paid attention to how they were said. You noticed the passion behind someone's argument or the uncertainty in another person's voice. These subtle cues helped you understand the conversation more deeply. Advanced listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about picking up on the emotions, the tone, and the intention behind them. These are skills that can't be learned overnight, but through practice, they become integral parts of your communication toolkit. Consider another scenario. You're watching a documentary about climate change, where a scientist explains complex data about global warming. You may have initially struggled with the technical jargon, but as you continue to listen to more documentaries, podcasts, and discussions on similar topics, you start to recognize recurring phrases and terminology. Over time, your understanding of these terms deepens. The same applies to the broader scope of advanced listening. It's about recognizing patterns in language, understanding context, and building your mental database of vocabulary. You might start by listening to a podcast episode that discusses sustainability, for example, and struggle to keep up with the scientific details. But as you repeat this kind of listening practice, it becomes easier to follow, and you begin to grasp more technical concepts, which improves your speaking as well. Let's also take a look at how advanced listening can help you improve your writing. You may not realize it, but the way people speak influences the way they write. Writers often borrow structures, phrases, and expressions from spoken language to make their writing sound more natural. For instance, think about the way a journalist writes an article after interviewing several experts. They may use direct quotes, or they might paraphrase how someone described a situation. These quotes reflect the natural flow of conversation and how it shapes the writer's interpretation. By actively listening to these conversations, you become more attuned to how real-life language works, allowing you to implement those same patterns into your writing. In addition to listening to diverse content, make sure to take an active role in your learning. Engage with the content you listen to by taking notes, summarizing key points, and asking yourself questions about the material. This active engagement reinforces what you've learned and makes it easier to recall when you need to apply it in your own speaking or writing. After listening to a podcast or watching an interview, try to retell the story or explain the main points to someone else. This forces you to organize your thoughts, practice new vocabulary, and express your ideas more clearly. The more you actively engage with the material, the more confident you'll become in using English in your daily life. Another way to practice advanced listening is by listening to stories with emotional depth. Think about the last time you listened to a story that really moved you. Maybe it was a powerful speech, a heartfelt personal story, or a documentary that made you think about the world in a new way. These stories engage both your emotions and your mind, which is why they are so effective for learning. As you listen, try to identify the emotions conveyed through the speaker's voice. Notice the changes in pitch, speed, and volume. These emotional cues are essential for understanding the deeper meaning behind the words. By practicing with emotionally charged material, you learn to connect with language on a deeper level, making it easier to express your own emotions in English. It's also worth noting that advanced listening can help you become more aware of cultural nuances in language. For instance, when you listen to a speaker from another country, you begin to notice how their culture influences the way they speak. In some cultures, speakers are more direct and to the point, while in others, they may use more indirect language or rely on storytelling. Understanding these cultural differences in communication helps you become more sensitive to how language is used in different contexts. This cultural awareness is valuable, especially if you plan to travel, work, or study in an English-speaking country. It allows you to navigate conversations more smoothly and avoid misunderstandings. When you listen to podcasts or read interviews, pay attention to how people structure their ideas. Take note of how they introduce topics, develop them, and conclude with key takeaways. You'll notice that successful speakers and writers often use a clear, logical structure to ensure their points are understood. Advanced listening helps you pick up on these organizational patterns. You begin to identify what makes certain speakers effective and what keeps the audience engaged. By applying these techniques to your own writing, you can ensure your ideas are communicated with the same clarity and persuasiveness. The ability to write in a way that captures the essence of spoken language is something that comes with both listening and practice. In addition to improving your writing, advanced listening also helps you understand language in different contexts. When you listen to formal speeches, such as those given by politicians or business leaders, you notice the use of specialized language and a more polished delivery. On the other hand, when you listen to casual conversations like those in a cafe or a social gathering, the language is more relaxed and spontaneous. The contrast between these two types of language is important for developing advanced listening skills because it teaches you how to adapt to different situations. You begin to understand when formal language is appropriate and when informal language is more fitting. This versatility is key for improving your communication in both personal and professional environments. To build on this, let's take a personal example from my own life. A few years ago, I was invited to speak at a conference on digital marketing. I had to deliver a presentation to a large group of industry professionals. At first, I was nervous about my ability to connect with the audience. However, I quickly realized that my success depended on my ability to understand the audience's level of knowledge and adjust my language accordingly. During the conference, I listened carefully to the other speakers to see how they engaged. The crowd. I paid attention to their tone, the types of expressions they used, and how they structured their presentations. This helped me refine my own speech to make sure I communicated clearly and effectively, and it gave me the confidence to express my ideas without hesitation. This experience taught me that advanced listening not only helps you understand others, but also allows you to connect with them on a deeper level. If you want to continue improving your listening skills, it's essential to expand your listening horizons. A great way to do this is by watching interviews with people from different backgrounds. For example, you could watch an interview with a CEO discussing their company's vision, followed by a conversation with a community activist speaking about the challenges of advocating for change. Listening to these two types of speakers in one sitting allows you to see how different individuals use language to express their ideas, their values, and their experiences. It helps you learn to switch between listening to formal, professional language and more passionate, informal speech. This ability to transition between these different speaking styles makes you more adaptable as a listener and improves your overall language skills. The key to mastering advanced listening is practice and consistency. The more diverse the sources you listen to, the better equipped you are to handle a wide range of topics and speaking styles. Whether you're listening to a TED Talk, a news broadcast, or a casual conversation among friends, each listening experience provides valuable insights into how language is used in the real world. Over time, these experiences accumulate, and you start to see the bigger picture. You begin to understand not just the words, but the way those words are used to shape ideas and convey messages. This deeper understanding of language strengthens both your speaking and writing skills. In my own journey, I've learned that the process of becoming an advanced listener is not a straight path. It's filled with moments of frustration and breakthroughs. There were times when I didn't understand a word or concept, but I didn't let that stop me. Instead, I made a note of it, looked it up later, and returned to the material with fresh ears. This perseverance paid off in the long run, as my ability to understand complex conversations, debates, and stories grew stronger. As you continue to work on your own listening skills, remember that each time you struggle to understand something is an opportunity to learn and grow. Keep pushing forward, and soon you'll find that understanding English in all its forms becomes second nature. Building on what we've discussed, let's now dive deeper into how listening skills not only help you understand, but also play a critical role in how you react to and engage in conversations. Imagine you're at a job interview with a recruiter from a company you really want to work for. The recruiter asks a question that seems straightforward, but you realize there's more beneath the surface. You could either respond quickly and risk misunderstanding the question, or you could take a moment to think carefully and listen attentively. This is where advanced listening really shines. By listening closely to the subtle details in the question, the tone of voice, the specific words chosen, and even the body language, you can better understand what the recruiter is truly asking and respond with more precision. This ability to truly hear beyond the words helps you connect with people more effectively and gives you the edge in professional settings. Now, let's bring in a real-life example to illustrate this further. A few years ago, I was attending a conference on digital marketing. During one of the panel discussions, a well-known expert in the field was talking about the future of AI in marketing. As the conversation progressed, it became clear that this expert wasn't just talking about the technical aspects of AI, they were expressing deep concerns about how it might impact jobs in the industry. The subtlety in their words made me realize the human side of the story, how AI could potentially displace workers, not just improve efficiencies. At first, I was focused only on the technical side, but by truly listening to the expert's tone and understanding their underlying concerns, I was able to grasp the broader, more emotional aspects of the topic. This kind of advanced listening is what separates a basic understanding from a deep, nuanced comprehension of what's being said. This brings me to an important point. Advanced listening is not just about understanding the words or phrases in front of you. It's about hearing the context, reading between the lines, and noticing the emotional undertones. Think of it as being able to read a person's mind or understand their perspective in a conversation without them explicitly saying everything. For example, in everyday conversations, someone might say, "I'm okay," but their tone and body language could reveal they're actually feeling stressed or upset. Advanced listening helps you tune into these signals, which not only improves your understanding, but also builds empathy. When you can sense how someone truly feels, you can respond more thoughtfully and appropriately, whether it's in a personal relationship or a professional setting. Consider another personal story of mine. A few years ago, I was having a conversation with an old friend who had just gone through a tough breakup. At first, I didn't realize how much it had affected them, as they kept the conversation light and casual. However, as we continued talking, I noticed subtle clues, how their voice cracked when talking about certain memories, or how they avoided eye contact when certain topics came up. Instead of focusing on what was being said on the surface, I listened to these emotional cues. I stopped for a moment, acknowledged their feelings, and let them know I was there for them. That moment of truly listening, not just to the words, but to the feelings behind them, created a deeper connection between us. Advanced listening, in this case, allowed me to engage in a more meaningful conversation and offer support when it was needed the most. This is the power of advanced listening. It helps you read emotions and understand the deeper layers of any conversation. It's not only beneficial for relationships, but also for professional environments, especially when it comes to leadership and team dynamics. When you lead a team, for example, you need to be able to understand more than just the facts. You need to hear your team's concerns, fears, and aspirations. By developing advanced listening skills, you can create an open, supportive environment where everyone feels heard, valued, and understood. This will improve not only the atmosphere in the workplace, but also the quality of the work produced. Another critical aspect of advanced listening is how it helps you deal with challenges in communication. Sometimes, you're in a situation where the speaker's accent or way of speaking makes it difficult to understand them. In such cases, the first instinct might be to zone out or become frustrated, but if you practice advanced listening, you learn to adjust. You listen more carefully, focus on the context, and try to grasp the main idea despite any difficulties. Let me tell you about an experience I had with this. A while back, I was attending an international conference with speakers from all over the world. One of the speakers had a very strong accent, and I initially found it challenging to understand them. However, I quickly realized that instead of focusing on every word, I needed to concentrate on the overall message they were trying to communicate. By focusing on their key points, adjusting my listening approach, and using contextual clues, I was able to follow along and learn just as much as I did from the other speakers. This experience is a great reminder that advanced listening isn't just about catching every word. It's about understanding the message, even when things aren't perfect. It's about flexibility and being willing to adjust your listening strategies based on the situation. Whether it's an unfamiliar accent, technical jargon, or background noise, advanced listening enables you to adapt and continue understanding what's important in the conversation. Let's take a moment to reflect on how we can incorporate these skills into our daily lives. Picture yourself in a conversation with someone who speaks quickly or uses a lot of technical language. It could be a colleague explaining a project or a friend talking about a hobby you're unfamiliar with. Without advanced listening, it would be easy to miss important details or become overwhelmed. But by using your listening strategies, paying attention to context, focusing on keywords, and asking clarifying questions, you can stay engaged and ensure that you're absorbing all the information, even if it's complex or fast-paced. Now, here's another example. I recently listened to a podcast where the guest was a climate scientist discussing the impacts of pollution on global ecosystems. As I listened, I realized the speaker was using a lot of scientific terms that were new to me. Instead of letting that discourage me, I focused on how they explain these concepts in a simple, relatable way. They used analogies that helped make complicated science easier to understand. This approach is something you can take into your own practice. Whenever you come across challenging material, focus on how it's being communicated and pay attention to the patterns in language. By doing this, you not only improve your listening skills, but also your ability to grasp complex ideas and concepts. These are the kinds of breakthroughs you experience when you commit to advanced listening. It's not about expecting every conversation to be easy. It's about practicing patience, staying focused, and learning how to listen effectively no matter the context. Over time, these habits will make you a more confident speaker as well, because you'll have the ability to understand a wide range of conversations and contribute meaningfully. As we continue to develop these listening strategies, don't forget the power of active listening. Listening is an active process, not a passive one. When you actively engage with the material you're listening to, you're not just hearing the words. You're processing the information, asking questions, and making connections. You can practice this by listening to podcasts, watching interviews, or engaging in conversations with people who speak different languages or have different accents. The more you challenge yourself with diverse listening experiences, the more proficient you'll become. I want to end this section with one more story. A while ago, I was at a dinner party with a group of people from various countries. One of the guests was a linguist who had lived in several different countries. As we talked about language learning, they shared a fascinating story about how listening to different accents helped them become a more effective communicator. They mentioned that when you listen to different ways people speak, it expands your understanding of the world and enriches your vocabulary. This story stuck with me because it highlighted how advanced listening doesn't just improve language skills. It broadens your view of the world, helping you see how different cultures use language to convey meaning. This is why it's so important to continue challenging yourself by listening to a variety of speakers. Every conversation is a chance to learn something new, and the more you listen, the more you'll grow as a communicator. Remember, the journey to becoming an advanced listener is one of continuous learning and growth. Each conversation, each podcast, each interview brings new opportunities to improve. When we think about communication, we often focus on speaking, choosing the right words, improving pronunciation, and making sure we sound fluent. But listening is just as important, if not more. Listening is what allows us to truly understand others, build deeper connections, and respond in a meaningful way. The more we improve our listening skills, the more confident we become in conversations. But what does it really mean to be an advanced listener? Advanced listening is about more than just hearing words. It's about picking up on tone, emotion, and hidden meanings. It's about staying focused, processing information quickly, and adapting to different speaking styles. Let me share a personal story that really highlights this. A few years ago, I was traveling in a country where I wasn't fluent in the language. I had learned some basic phrases, but I wasn't completely comfortable. One evening, I got into a conversation with a local shop owner. He spoke quickly, using words and expressions I had never heard before. At first, I felt lost, but instead of panicking, I reminded myself to focus on the key points. I listened carefully to his tone, his hand gestures, and the way he emphasized certain words. I also noticed his facial expressions. When he smiled, when he paused, when his voice softened. Even though I didn't understand every single word, I was able to grasp the overall meaning. By the end of the conversation, I realized that I had understood far more than I expected, simply because I paid close attention to all the details. This experience taught me an important lesson. When we listen actively, we can understand much more than we think. Even if we don't catch every word, we can use other clues like tone, body language, and context to fill in the gaps. This is a skill that can help in any situation, whether you're learning a new language, attending a business meeting, or simply having a deep conversation with a friend. Speaking of deep conversations, let me share another experience that really shaped my perspective on listening. A friend of mine once went through a really difficult time. He had lost his job and was feeling very discouraged. One day he called me and started talking about his struggles. At first I felt the urge to give advice, to tell him everything would be okay, to suggest solutions, to try to fix the problem. But instead, I decided to just listen. I didn't interrupt. I didn't offer quick fixes. I simply let him speak. I paid attention to the pain in his voice, the way he hesitated before certain words, the way he sighed between sentences. After a long conversation, he said something that really stuck with me. "Thank you for listening. I feel so much better just talking about it." That moment made me realize that listening isn't just about understanding words. It's about making people feel heard. Sometimes people don't need solutions. They just need someone to truly listen. And that's a lesson that can be applied to any relationship, whether it's with family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a different kind of listening in professional settings. Many of us have been in situations where we've had to listen to complex information, maybe in a class, at work, or during a presentation. It can be overwhelming, especially when the speaker uses a lot of technical terms or speaks too quickly. But with the right strategies, you can train yourself to stay focused and absorb information more effectively. I remember attending a business seminar where the speaker was discussing digital marketing trends. At first, I struggled to keep up. He was using industry jargon, moving quickly from one point to another, and speaking in a way that felt very technical. Instead of feeling frustrated, I decided to focus on 3 key things, the main ideas. I didn't try to understand every single word. Instead, I focused on the big picture. What was the overall message? What were the key takeaways? Patterns and repetition. I noticed that the speaker kept repeating certain phrases. Those were likely the most important points. By paying attention to repetition, I could identify the main themes of his talk, pauses, and emphasis. Whenever the speaker slowed down or stressed a particular word, I knew it was something important. I used those moments as a guide to help me focus. By the end of the seminar, I realized that I had understood more than I initially thought. I didn't need to catch every word. I just needed to listen actively and pay attention to the right details. This experience showed me that advanced listening isn't about perfect comprehension. It's about using smart strategies to make sense of information, even when it's complex or unfamiliar. Let me share another story, one that highlights the power of listening in leadership. A friend of mine is a manager at a large company. One day, he had a meeting with his team, and one of his employees was clearly frustrated about something. The employee said, "I just don't think this project is working." My friend could have responded defensively, explaining why the project was important, but instead, he chose to listen. He asked follow-up questions. What do you think isn't working? What challenges are you facing? By listening closely, he realized that the employee wasn't actually against the project. He was just struggling with a specific part of it. Because my friend took the time to listen, he was able to address the real issue and find a solution that worked for everyone. This story highlights an important point. Good listening leads to better problem solving. When you truly listen to others, you gain deeper insights, avoid misunderstandings, and build stronger relationships. This is true in business, in friendships, in family life, anywhere communication happens. Now, let's talk about something that many language learners struggle with, understanding different accents. Have you ever listened to someone with a neat, unfamiliar accent and found it difficult to follow? You're not alone. This is a common challenge, but with practice, you can improve. I once had a professor who spoke with a very strong accent. At first, I struggled to understand him, and I worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up in class. But over time, I developed strategies that helped me adapt, listening for rhythm and intonation. Every accent has a unique rhythm. Once I started paying attention to the melody of his speech, I found it easier to predict words and phrases. Focusing on keywords. Instead of trying to process every word, I trained myself to listen for the most important words in each sentence. Giving myself time, I reminded myself that it was okay to struggle at first. The more I listened, the easier it became. By the end of the semester, I could understand my professor much more easily. This experience taught me that listening to different accents is a skill that can be developed with practice. And the more you expose yourself to different ways of speaking, the more confident you'll become in conversations with a wide range of people. I'll share one more story before we continue. A few years ago, I met a woman who spoke 5 languages fluently. I asked her how she had managed to learn so many languages. Her answer was simple. I listen a lot. She explained that instead of focusing only on grammar and vocabulary, she spent hours every day just listening, whether it was to podcasts, conversations, or music. She said that by training her ears first, speaking became much easier. Her advice stuck with me. It made me realize that the more we listen, the more natural language becomes. So, if you're trying to improve your English, or any language, remember this. Listening is one of the most powerful tools you have. It helps you learn pronunciation, expand your vocabulary, and understand how native speakers really talk. When you expose yourself to different voices and speaking styles, you begin to notice the subtle differences in pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. For example, I once listened to an interview with a renowned architect who described his vision for sustainable design. His voice had a calm yet deliberate pace, and his careful enunciation made even technical terms sound clear. As I listened repeatedly, I started to pick up on how he stressed certain words to convey enthusiasm and caution. This repetition not only improved my understanding of architectural terminology, but also taught me how to modulate my own speech for clarity and emphasis when discussing complex topics. Let me share another story. A couple of years ago, I attended an international cultural festival where people from various countries came together to share their traditions. One of the speakers was a poet from Spain who recited verses about hope and resilience. Although his accent was strong and his rhythm unique, I focused on his emotional delivery. I remembered how he paused at moments of significance and how his tone softened during reflective passages. Those pauses and tonal shifts transformed a simple recitation into an evocative narrative that stirred deep emotions in the audience. This experience reinforced for me that advanced listening goes beyond just the words. It's about absorbing the emotion behind them. By training your ear to catch these subtleties, you can improve not only your comprehension, but also your ability to express nuanced feelings in your own writing and speaking. Another instance that highlights the power of advanced listening occurred during a heated business negotiation. I was part of a team meeting where 2 senior executives debated the merits of a new strategy. One executive, named Laura, was known for her assertive yet empathetic communication style. As she spoke, she used deliberate pauses, varying her tone to emphasize key points. I noticed that when she raised her voice slightly, it signaled urgency, and when she softened her tone, it indicated careful thought. Observing her, I learned how advanced listening can guide you to understand not just the literal meaning of words, but also the strategic underpinnings of persuasive communication. Later, when I had to contribute to a similar discussion, I applied these insights by pausing before responding and choosing my words carefully, which resulted in a more thoughtful and effective contribution. Advanced listening also means adapting to different cultural contexts. I recall a memorable encounter during a business trip to Japan. In one meeting, I was paired with a Japanese colleague, Hiroshi, who spoke very softly and with a calm demeanor. At first, I found it challenging to grasp every detail because his pace was slow and filled with subtle inflections that I wasn't used to. However, I began to notice that his choice of words was very respectful and measured, reflecting the cultural importance of humility and harmony. By focusing on these cultural cues, I not only improved my comprehension, but also learned to appreciate a different style of communication. This encounter taught me that advanced listening is also about understanding cultural nuances, which in turn enriches your ability to interact in diverse environments. In another instance, I was invited to a live webinar on global finance where speakers from multiple countries discussed economic trends. The conversation was rapid and laced with specialized terminology. At first, I struggled to keep up, feeling overwhelmed by the speed and complexity of the discussion. However, I remembered a technique that helped me in the past: active summarization. I started jotting down key phrases and numbers while listening. Then I would pause and mentally summarize what I had just heard. Over time, this process became smoother, and I was able to follow along with increasing ease. This experience highlighted that advanced listening is not a passive act, but a dynamic process of engaging with content. By continuously summarizing and questioning the material, you create a feedback loop that deepens your understanding and retention. I also learned a great deal about advanced listening from a mentor during my early career days. My mentor, David, was an excellent communicator who often emphasized the importance of listening in leadership. One day, during a team meeting, he shared a personal story about how listening carefully to his team's feedback helped him resolve a major project setback. He described a situation where a small miscommunication had led to a significant error, and it was only when he took the time to listen to his team's concerns that he uncovered the root of the problem. David explained that by asking open-ended questions and allowing silence to give space for honest responses, he was able to foster an environment where every team member felt valued. His approach not only resolved the immediate issue, but also built long-term trust within the team. Inspired by his story, I began to practice active listening in my daily interactions, focusing on truly understanding the perspectives of those around me rather than simply waiting for my turn to speak. There's also a fascinating story from my time abroad. While living in a bustling city, I regularly visited a local coffee shop where conversations among patrons filled the air. One day, I overheard an elderly gentleman recounting his life story to a group of friends. His narrative was filled with vivid descriptions of his youth, his travels, and the hardships he endured during difficult times. What struck me most was not just the content of his story, but the way he told it. The deliberate pace, the occasional pause for dramatic effect, and the warmth in his voice when he mentioned moments of joy. I listened intently, and later I tried to write down his story from memory. The exercise helped me realize that the art of storytelling is deeply connected to effective listening. By understanding the emotional and rhythmic elements of his speech, I could capture the essence of his experiences in my writing. This practice not only enhanced my listening skills, but also enriched my ability to express complex narratives in English. Another memorable experience involved a podcast series I followed, where each episode featured a roundtable discussion on social issues. One particular episode dealt with the topic of mental health, and the speakers shared their personal struggles and triumphs. I remember one speaker, Maria, who spoke with a mix of vulnerability and strength. Her voice conveyed both the pain of her experiences and the hope that came with recovery. As I listened, I focused on how she balanced her emotions with clear, articulate speech. I noticed how her pauses allowed the weight of her words to sink in, making her message even more powerful. Inspired by her, I later incorporated similar techniques in my own speaking practice, using pauses to emphasize important points and modulating my tone to reflect my true feelings. Maria's story was a poignant reminder that advanced listening can transform not just your language skills, but also your ability to connect on a human level. In addition to personal encounters, advanced listening is also fostered through deliberate practice with structured materials. I recall spending several months listening to a series of advanced English lectures on history and culture. Initially, I found the lectures challenging due to their academic language and fast pace. However, I adopted a methodical approach. I listened to each lecture multiple times, first for a general understanding, then to catch specific details, and finally to mimic the speaker's delivery. With each repetition, I noticed a significant improvement in my ability to understand and retain complex information. Over time, I was able to discuss the lecture topics with my peers and even write essays that captured the nuances of the discussions. This rigorous practice underscored the importance of repetition and active engagement in advanced listening. Furthermore, advanced listening can be enhanced by engaging with interactive content. I once participated in an online debate on a current event topic, where speakers from different backgrounds offered contrasting viewpoints. The debate was intense, with rapid exchanges and overlapping dialogue. At first, it was challenging to keep track of every argument. However, by focusing on the key points, I began to understand the core issues being discussed. I even contributed by summarizing some of the points in the chat, which further solidified my understanding. This interactive debate experience taught me that advanced listening is not just about absorbing information passively. It's about engaging with the material in real time, questioning assumptions, and contributing your own insights. Another example comes from my experience with language exchange programs. I regularly connect with native English speakers who are learning my language, and these exchanges are incredibly beneficial for honing advanced listening skills. In one memorable session, I was paired with a native speaker from Ireland, Liam, who had a distinct accent and used a lot of idiomatic expressions. At first, I found it challenging to follow his rapid-fire speech. However, I made a conscious effort to ask clarifying questions and repeat back what I understood. Over several sessions, I gradually became more comfortable with his accent and even started picking up on the idioms he used. This exchange not only improved my listening skills, but also enriched my vocabulary with expressions that are common in everyday English. It was a clear demonstration that advanced listening is an ongoing, interactive process that benefits greatly from direct personal communication. I also recall a powerful experience from a virtual seminar on environmental sustainability. The speaker, Dr. Elena, was an expert in climate science who discussed the impact of human activity on global ecosystems. Her lecture was filled with complex data, scientific terminology, and subtle nuances about environmental policy. At first, the content was overwhelming, but I committed to active listening by taking detailed notes and pausing the recording to reflect on the information. Over several sessions, I began to understand not only the facts, but also the implications of the data she presented. Dr. Elena's ability to communicate complex ideas in a relatable way inspired me to improve my own ability to discuss such topics. This seminar reinforced the idea that advanced listening is essential for grasping the deeper meaning behind complex information and for building a well-rounded understanding of important issues. Moreover, advanced listening is a skill that extends to creative endeavors as well. I once attended a workshop on creative writing, where the instructor emphasized the importance of listening to music as a way to enhance one's storytelling. We were asked to listen to a piece of instrumental music and then write a short story, inspired by the emotions it evoked. I found that by focusing on the melody, rhythm, and mood of the music, I could tap into a well of creative ideas. This exercise taught me that listening, in its most artistic form, can unlock hidden parts of your imagination and give you new ways to express yourself in writing and speaking. It demonstrated that advanced listening is not confined to formal communication. It can also be a source of inspiration for creative expression. In another creative example, I remember a conversation with a renowned filmmaker who shared how he developed his storytelling techniques by immersing himself in diverse auditory experiences. He described how he would listen to soundtracks, natural sounds, and even urban noises to capture the ambiance and emotion of a scene. His approach was to let the sounds tell a story, and then translate that story into visual and verbal elements in his films. His words resonated with me deeply, as they showed that advanced listening could transform your perspective on communication. By learning to appreciate every nuance of sound, you become more attuned to the subtleties of language and expression, whether you are speaking, writing, or creating art. Expanding further on the role of advanced listening, consider how it impacts your ability to negotiate and resolve conflicts. I once observed a mediator during a community dispute who was exceptionally skilled at listening. Instead of jumping to conclusions or making assumptions, the mediator listened intently to each party, often rephrasing their concerns to confirm understanding. This approach not only diffused tension, but also paved the way for mutually beneficial solutions. The mediator's success was rooted in his ability to listen without bias and to appreciate the underlying emotions driving the conflict. This story reminds us that advanced listening is a powerful tool for conflict resolution. By truly hearing what others are saying, you can bridge differences and build stronger, more cooperative relationships. Another compelling story comes from a personal experience with public speaking. I once had the opportunity to present at a large conference on technology and innovation. Prior to my presentation, I listened to recordings of several successful speakers to analyze their delivery, pacing, and how they handled audience questions. I noticed that the best speakers were not just articulate, they were also excellent listeners. They would listen carefully to audience questions, often pausing to ensure they fully understood the query before responding. Inspired by this, I practiced active listening techniques before my presentation. During the event, I focused on truly understanding each question and taking my time to form thoughtful answers. The positive feedback I received afterwards was a testament to how advanced listening can enhance not only your understanding, but also your public speaking skills. This experience showed me that being an attentive listener on stage makes you more relatable and persuasive as a speaker. Furthermore, advanced listening can be enriched by embracing multimedia content that challenges you to think in different ways. For instance, I often switch between listening to radio dramas, news bulletins, and documentary interviews. Each format offers a unique style of communication. Radio dramas, with their vivid sound effects and dynamic character interactions, teach you to imagine scenes and understand context without visual cues. News bulletins, with their concise language and structured delivery, help you grasp factual information quickly. Documentary interviews, on the other hand, provide deep insights into personal stories and complex subjects. By rotating among these different formats, you train your brain to adapt to various communication styles, which makes you a more versatile listener and, by extension, a more effective communicator. Additionally, try to integrate technology into your listening practice in innovative ways. There are several advanced language learning platforms that allow you to interact with native speakers in real time, participate in virtual listening labs, or even engage in simulated conversations that challenge your comprehension skills. For example, some platforms offer interactive transcripts that let you click on words you didn't understand to see their definitions instantly. Others provide real-time feedback on your pronunciation as you mimic phrases from advanced speakers. Utilizing these tools can add a fun, interactive element to your practice and help you track your progress over time. Another insightful story comes from a colleague, Mark, who works in international diplomacy. Mark shared how his career depended on his ability to understand speakers from various cultures and backgrounds, often under high-pressure situations. He recounted a particular negotiation where every word mattered, and the slightest misinterpretation could have led to significant misunderstandings. By honing his advanced listening skills over the years, Mark became adept at quickly deciphering not only the words, but also the intent behind them. He learned to listen for cues like hesitation, changes in pitch, and the rhythm of speech, which often revealed the speaker's true position. Mark's experience underscores that advanced listening is a critical skill in any field that requires nuanced communication, and it can even influence the outcome of high-stakes negotiations. In yet another memorable instance, I recall an encounter with a passionate environmental activist, Nina, during a community forum. Nina spoke about her experiences in combating local pollution and the challenges of implementing sustainable practices in her community. Her speech was raw and emotional. She described moments of both despair and hope. As I listened, I found myself not only understanding her words, but also feeling the weight of her emotions. Her story was a powerful demonstration of how advanced listening allows you to connect with the speaker on an emotional level, transforming a simple exchange of words into a shared experience. Nina's narrative inspired me to reflect on my own relationship with the environment and reinforced the idea that listening is a gateway to empathy and understanding. Advanced listening also plays a crucial role in enhancing your critical thinking skills. When you listen to arguments, debates, or even everyday conversations, you learn to analyze the information presented. You begin to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and consider alternative perspectives. I remember a lively debate I once attended at a university lecture hall, where two professors discussed the future of renewable energy. As I listened, I noted the differences in their viewpoints, the evidence each used to support their claims, and the subtle ways in which they built their arguments. This analytical process sharpened my own critical thinking skills, enabling me to form more informed opinions and articulate them more clearly. Advanced listening, therefore, not only improves your language proficiency, but also enriches your intellectual capacity. Moreover, let's not forget the role of storytelling in advancing your listening skills. Storytelling is an ancient art, and it remains one of the most effective ways to communicate complex ideas. Consider the traditional stories passed down through generations, rich with symbolism, moral lessons, and cultural heritage. Listening to these stories helps you understand the underlying values and traditions of a culture. I recall a time when I visited a small village where an elder recounted local legends with such passion and detail that I was completely captivated. Even though the language was simple, the depth of the narrative was profound. Through her story, I learned not only new vocabulary, but also gained insights into the cultural fabric of the community. This kind of immersive storytelling is a perfect example of how advanced listening can bridge the gap between language learning and cultural understanding. Another aspect of advanced listening is learning to handle interruptions and overlapping conversations. In real-life situations, especially in group discussions or noisy environments, speakers often talk over each other or interrupt. I remember attending a busy networking event where multiple conversations were happening at once. Initially, it was challenging to isolate individual voices, but I practiced filtering out background noise and focusing on the person directly addressing me. I learned to pick up on the main points even when the conversation was fragmented. This skill has proven invaluable, as it has allowed me to participate in dynamic discussions without losing track of the core message. It also taught me that effective listening sometimes means piecing together bits of information from a chaotic environment to form a coherent understanding. To further enhance these skills, I began experimenting with mindfulness techniques. Before engaging in a complex conversation or starting a listening session, I would take a few deep breaths to clear my mind. This simple practice helped me to focus better and reduce distractions. Over time, I noticed that I could enter a state of deep concentration more quickly, which made my listening sessions more productive. Incorporating mindfulness into your language practice can be a game changer, as it prepares your mind to receive and process information more effectively. It's a reminder that advanced listening is as much about mental discipline as it is about language skills. I also found that keeping a reflective journal of my listening experiences provided long-term benefits. Every evening, I would jot down details of conversations I had, podcasts I listened to, or meetings I attended. I would note any new expressions, the speaker's notable styles, and how I felt during these interactions. Over time, reviewing these entries allowed me to see patterns in my progress and identify areas where I needed more practice. This journal became a personal roadmap, guiding me through my journey to advanced proficiency. It reminded me that every listening experience, whether challenging or inspiring, contributed to my overall growth. Another enlightening story comes from a community event I attended last year, where local leaders discussed social issues affecting our neighborhood. One leader, named Carlos, shared a moving account of how community members came together to support each other during a natural disaster. His narrative was filled with both statistical data and personal anecdotes. As I listened, I was struck by how effectively he combined objective facts with emotional storytelling. His ability to weave together different elements of language left a strong impression on me and taught me valuable lessons about balancing logic and emotion in communication. Carlos's story was a vivid illustration of how advanced listening can help you appreciate the art of storytelling and inspire you to incorporate those techniques into your own language use. Additionally, I have encountered situations where advanced listening has helped me navigate difficult conversations with grace. For instance, during a team meeting where tensions were running high over a miscommunication, I focused on listening to every team member's perspective without judgment. By giving everyone the space to express themselves fully, I was able to identify the root cause of the disagreement. One colleague, Lisa, mentioned a small detail that had been overlooked, which turned out to be the key to resolving the conflict. That day, I learned that advanced listening is not merely about hearing words. It is about understanding the full context of a situation, which can lead to more effective. Yet another story that has stayed with me comes from an unexpected source, a local community radio station. I once tuned into a live call-in show where listeners shared their personal experiences about overcoming adversity. One caller, a man named Joseph, described his journey of recovering from a major setback in his career. His voice was steady and reflective as he recounted the obstacles he had faced and the lessons he had learned along the way. I was deeply moved by his resilience and the clarity with which he expressed his thoughts. His story not only broadened my vocabulary with phrases of hope and determination, but also provided a profound example of how advanced listening can capture the essence of human experience. Listening to Joseph, I realized that every individual's story is a lesson in itself, offering unique insights into the human spirit. As you immerse yourself in these diverse listening experiences, remember that each conversation, story, and interaction enriches your language skills. Advanced listening is a continuous journey that requires you to be open, curious, and engaged with the world around you. The more you practice, the more naturally these skills will become a part of your everyday communication. Every new speaker you encounter, every story you hear, and every conversation you participate in adds to your ability to understand and express complex ideas in English. Keep challenging yourself to explore new listening environments, from quiet, focused sessions at home to bustling, dynamic interactions in public spaces. Embrace the diversity of voices, accents, and styles as opportunities to broaden your understanding and deepen your connection with the language. Whether you're analyzing the deliberate speech of an academic lecture, the emotive delivery of a heartfelt narrative, or the fast-paced dialogue of a lively debate, each experience is a stepping stone toward mastering advanced listening. In addition to individual practice, engaging in group activities can significantly enhance your listening skills. join study groups, participate in online discussion forums, or attend workshops where advanced topics are discussed. In these settings, you'll have the chance to listen to others, share your own insights, and receive feedback that can further refine your abilities. For instance, I once joined an online book club where members discussed contemporary literature in English. The diversity of opinions and the depth of analysis in those discussions challenged me to listen more carefully and articulate my thoughts more clearly. The experience not only improved my listening skills, but also enriched my understanding of literature and cultural contexts. Another enriching experience was a virtual conference I attended on technological innovations. The event brought together experts from around the globe, each with their own distinct speaking style and accent. One particular session focused on the impact of artificial intelligence on daily life. The speakers explained complex technical concepts in a conversational tone, using everyday examples to illustrate their points. I found myself noting the differences in how each expert approached the topic, from a pragmatic, business-oriented perspective to a more philosophical, humanistic angle. This multifaceted discussion taught me that advanced listening involves not only understanding the words, but also appreciating the diverse ways in which ideas can be communicated. It showed me that every speaker brings their own unique perspective, and by listening to all these viewpoints, I can develop a more comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. Furthermore, I recall an inspiring workshop on public speaking that I attended a while back. The facilitator, a seasoned speech coach named Olivia, emphasized that listening is as important as speaking in effective communication. She shared a personal story about a time when she had misinterpreted a colleague's feedback due to poor listening, which led to a misunderstanding that almost derailed a project. Olivia explained that by improving her listening skills, by paying attention to the tone, body language, and context of the conversation, she was able to build stronger relationships and avoid such pitfalls in the future. Her candid account motivated me to invest more time in developing my listening skills. I started incorporating regular practice sessions where I would listen to recordings of conversations and then critique my understanding. Over time, I noticed a significant improvement in both my comprehension and my ability to respond appropriately in live discussions. As you continue on this journey, remember that every listening experience, whether challenging or uplifting, contributes to your growth. The stories, conversations, and interactions you encounter are all part of a larger mosaic that forms your advanced listening skills. They teach you to be patient, attentive, and empathetic, qualities that are essential not only for mastering English, but for connecting with people from all walks of life. Keep exploring new audio and visual resources, be it international news channels, cultural documentaries, or informal chat shows. Each format presents its own set of challenges and rewards. For example, listening to a high-energy sports commentary can help you learn how to catch fast-paced dialogue and dynamic expressions, while a calm, reflective interview might teach you the art of thoughtful pauses and deliberate speech. Embrace these varied experiences and use them as opportunities to practice active listening, note-taking, summarizing, and even role-playing. Consider also the value of revisiting content. When you listen to something multiple times, you begin to notice details that you might have missed the first time around. This repetition reinforces your memory and deepens your understanding of the language. I recall listening to a complex lecture on economics several times before I felt confident discussing its concepts with colleagues. Each subsequent listening session revealed new layers of meaning and helped me internalize the vocabulary and structures used by the speaker. This iterative process is a powerful tool in advanced listening, as it transforms initial confusion into clear comprehension and practical knowledge. Another powerful method is to blend listening with creative activities. For instance, after listening to a compelling story or a detailed discussion, try to create your own version of it, either by rewriting it in your own words or by acting it out with a friend. This not only reinforces what you have learned, but also allows you to experiment with different styles of expression. I once participated in a creative writing workshop where we listened to a series of personal narratives and then wrote our own stories inspired by them. The exercise was both challenging and rewarding, as it forced me to process the language deeply and then recreate it in a meaningful way. Such activities highlight that advanced listening is not just about passive reception, but also about active transformation of the content into your own language. Moreover, try to engage in reflective discussions after listening sessions. This could be as simple as discussing a podcast with a friend or joining an online forum where you share your insights and ask questions. These discussions can illuminate different perspectives and help you see aspects of the conversation that you might have overlooked. In one memorable discussion group, I shared my thoughts on a debate about renewable energy. The diverse opinions and clarifying questions from other members opened my eyes to new vocabulary and different ways of framing arguments. This collaborative learning environment underscored the importance of listening as a two-way street, where you learn as much from others' interpretations as you do from the original speaker. Every story, every conversation, and every piece of content you encounter is a building block in your journey toward advanced listening and speaking mastery. The more you practice, the more you'll see how these experiences interconnect, enriching your understanding of the language and enhancing your ability to communicate effectively. Keep pushing yourself to listen actively, ask questions, and engage with a wide variety of content. Each challenge you overcome is a step forward. Each story you absorb adds depth to your language skills, and every conversation is an opportunity to express yourself with greater clarity and passion.